everyone, my name is Andy, welcome back to another FPL video, and today it's team selection time-ish. Obviously a little bit of a difference given that there's no football at the moment, but I do have 2 free transfers, and given that we're going to be able to use those transfers, and obviously we'll probably want to use this team later on in the season, I might as well use them. For anyone who hasn't seen, the Premier League has done another kind of announcement today, basically saying that the long and the short is there will be no football until at least April 30th at the earliest. At least that's when it's kind of stopped till. So obviously then we're going into May before any potential football can now happen for the Premier League. And obviously even that is just best case scenario. The chances are it will go on even longer potentially until the football actually comes back. Whether it comes back with fans at the stadium, whether it comes back with kind of behind closed doors, we just don't know yet. And the other kind of interesting thing that they said was it's kind of usually the league has to be finished by the 1st of June, but they've kind of suspended that indefinitely, which sounds very much like they want the league to be finished. That seems to be the biggest priority, is getting all the leagues finished, you know, getting European spots wrapped up, relegation, promotion from the Championship, League One, etc. Obviously, crowning Liverpool title winners as well will be part of that. So it does sound like the goal, at least right now, and it's probably quite obvious, is that the league will be finished. If this goes on for months and months and months, will they change that? Possibly. We'll have to just keep checking as it goes. I'm sure in kind of another month's time, we'll get another kind of an update about whether it really is going to come back in May or whether it's going to be extended even further to like June, July. And obviously this is a kind of constant evolving thing going on with COVID-19, and it's kind of unprecedented, as everyone keeps saying, so we don't really know what's going to happen. So it does sound like it's going to finish. That's obviously good news in terms of FPL, because we will probably get to finish this season at some point. Now, what FPL do, I don't know. They've not really announced anything in terms of how the game weeks will work. You know, will we get a wild card? Will there be loads of double game weeks? Will game week 38 just be a massive, like, I don't know, like a game week with like 8 fixtures for every single team? We just don't know. I think if we're going into kind of May anyway, before we get any football, you're already looking at like game week 35 and 36. There's going to be loads of fixtures for every single team to kind of put in. They may, you know, they could potentially just do the last kind of 9-10 game weeks as 9 or 10 separate game weeks, you know, add on like game week 39, 40, 41, 42, and not have any double game weeks potentially. Could have one massive one in 38 of, well, it'd be way more than double. Or they, you know, they could just add on a few more game weeks and still have kind of double game weeks within them. I don't know. Obviously, this is, again, unprecedented. We don't know how they're going to react to it. You know, if we get a wild card, then all these transfers don't really make any difference. But we do have transfers, and I do have to use one this week. Now, a few people have asked me kind of on Patreon, Slack, and on Twitter kind of what my aim is, or to use my transfers for, or what my transfers are going to be. And obviously, it's really hard to say, especially if you don't know if we're going to get a wild card or not. But ultimately, I just think the main thing, you have to look at the rest of the fixtures, the fixtures for the season that will, because that's the one thing, we know which fixtures are going to be played if the season is wrapped up. We just don't know when they're going to be played. And I think before I was thinking about making transfers with Game Week 32 in mind, even though realistically I never expected us to be playing them. I think now you kind of have to maybe look from 35, 36 onwards, even though they could just reschedule absolutely everything right away. So if you were looking like from game week 35, for example, and just getting it up here for the rest of the season, and you did it kind of by difficulty, so you can go on Fantasy Football Scout and look at the season ticker there. Then Man City have got the best fixtures remaining. Man United have got some really good fixtures as well. Everton, West Ham could go for Richarlison, something like that. And the other thing to bear in mind as well, because we're now a month away, obviously there's lots of players like Kane and Pogba, Son as well, Pereira at Leicester, who were kind of out for pretty much the whole season, or right up until the end of the season. But now we might have the likes of Kane back for the rest of these fixtures. Pogba could be back in the Man United team as well. So there's some massive differentials there potentially. Obviously it's a bit early to be kind of worried about differentials, but you know, that could come into our play. Maybe I do Aubameyang to Kane, for example. I've got 3.3 million in the bank, so I was looking at Traore to Martial, but perhaps I go to Paul Pogba instead. Big differential. And I think my main kind of goal for the rest of the season, and this will differ depending on where your rank is. Like if I was in the top 10k, of course I'd want this season finished. I'd keep playing it the same as I always would. But we are going into times where we just don't know what's going to happen. It feels like in some ways this season's already a write-off. It doesn't really matter what happens from an FPL point of view for the rest of the season. So I kind of want to use the opportunity to go maybe even a little bit more different than I already was. Obviously using a bench boost in a single game week was part of that to get my rank up, and that obviously helped. But yeah, maybe getting the likes of Pogba and Kane. I mean, Kane hasn't been great for Spurs from an FPL point of view for a little while now, even before his injury, but maybe it's time to get him back. Obviously, everyone's going to have had the same kind of rest. Everyone's going to be out of form as well. So I think basically, long story short, and obviously this is going to be a shorter video than normal. I'm not going to do these every single week now. But I thought given the announcement was made, and I am going to use a transfer because we have free ones every single week. And we should keep using them unless, if FPL come out and say, you're all going to get wildcards when the season restarts, then we just give up with these teams for now and just worry about it when the time comes. But until then, they're still putting us through the game weeks. We still get a free transfer to use. We might as well use it. So I would look at your team who, like for example, McNeil, Barnes, Traore, they're all probably not players I'm going to massively want to hold for the rest of the season. Fernandes, Salah, maybe Jimenez, definitely players I'll probably want to keep. So the likes of maybe Ings or Aubameyang are the type of players that I'm looking at taking out. So maybe I could get a Man City player in, but I still wouldn't, even after all this time, be sure about who's going to get rotated. I'm actually looking at bringing in Man United players. They've got good fixtures to come. They've been in some really good form since Fernandes is in. If Pogba comes back, that could only help them as well. Obviously, it'll be tricky maybe for Solskjaer to put him back into the team, but we'll have to see how things go. So long story short, for the second time now, I'm probably going to do Traore to Pogba or Traore to Martial if I really don't think Pogba will be back. And just save my other free transfer. But ultimately, there's no real reason to keep saving it week in, week out, having 2 free transfers, because it's going to be a while till any football's played anyway. So you could make 2 free transfers this week without too many issues. You're going to have plenty more weeks to save up that additional transfer. Obviously, FPL might say something later on in the week now that the Premier League have announced something, but they've only really got the rest of Thursday and Friday to kind of do that before it kind of makes a difference to the transfer we make this week. So that's my plans, I think. That's a good 7 minutes telling you one transfer I'm going to make that probably won't even matter in a few weeks. But I wanted to talk about the announcement and stuff as well. So I hope you're all keeping well. I hope you're all keeping safe. Obviously, we're all, in this household, we're trying to do the best we can. We are still going out at some points, like walking the dog, making sure we keep our distance from other people. But getting out of the house is so important. Like, if I could recommend anything, is get out of the house if you can, and it's safe to do so. That doesn't mean going to like parties and gatherings and stuff like that. But like going for a walk with no one else around, absolutely probably key for mental health, just to get out of the house. And yeah, that's pretty much it for me right now. I'm just trying to get out of the house when I can. And just stay sane. I'm kind of also taking not a massive break, but a little bit of a break from Twitter from time to time as well. I'm not constantly on there posting, scrolling, because obviously there's a lot of bad news at the moment. And obviously we're hoping for the good news to return. And there's just so much info it can get overwhelming. So I don't want to use this video to kind of preach to people and tell you what you should do. But that's kind of what I'm doing. That's my experience. I'm still getting out of the house. I went for a little jog/walk this morning. If there was anyone coming down the street, I kind of avoided them. As much for them as for me. Like, I don't want to avoid people, but obviously that's what we've been told to do. So that's what I'm doing. And obviously avoiding kind of public, if the kid wants to go out and play football, I'll happily kick the ball out in the street, but I'm not going to go to a public playground or anything like that. So getting out of the house, trying to avoid social media and the news is maybe not completely, because obviously there is some good news and some relevant news out there, but just take a bit of a break every day. Don't be constantly looking for the next bit of news, because that will drive you insane, basically. So yeah, there we go. We've got a team selection video, a what am I doing video, and an update for the Premier League video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a like. I'll try and get some more videos out next week. Obviously we've got a month now to kill. At least a month, maybe a month and a half before we get any kind of football returning. So we'll see what kind of videos we can put out. There won't be team selections every week, but bam, there's one this week. Hope you keep it well. Leave a comment below, subscribe, etc. Catch you next time.